We'll see if some more people show up, because I know there was a few more that wanted to see this. And if you can't catch the whole thing, I'll be posting it up on YouTube as well, so you guys can look it over whenever you guys need to. I do think you need an account to chat, so if some of you guys want to set up an account real quick so you can ask questions, that might be helpful for you. Alright, we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll go ahead and start. And like I said, if anybody else misses this, I'll post this up on my YouTube channel, and I'll post it in on Facebook for you guys. Alright, so like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them in chat. I'll check every now and then. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do this from the ground up. We'll start at the very beginning. For those of you who are DMing or want to DM, most of that retains to you. Those of you as players will just end up coming in into their campaigns. Alright, so if you haven't noticed already, this is Roll20. This is what a lot of people use to play D&D. It's what we use to play D&D. You'll go ahead and when you first log on your screen, it'll look a little bit different than this. It'll ask you to register. Registration is free. Just go ahead and fill in your email address or whatnot, create a username and password. And then you'll get to one of these screens where it just says home, your recent campaigns. It won't show anything because you haven't joined any campaigns. First things first, if you want to look for a campaign, you just go ahead and click on looking for a group, and it'll bring you up to a page like this where you can pick what kind of D&D session you want to have, 3.5, 4th edition, 5th edition. Anything can be in a DM module. You can have Star Wars, whatever you want. And then my suggestion would be to sort by starting the soonest. That way, if you try to join somebody else's and they're not playing for 4 months or whatever, then you're not waiting on them. But it'll give you a brief description, what they're playing, if they welcome new players, if it's got mature content. Mature content just means if they're going to be swearing, most of the time. Mature content's not like nudity or anything like that, so you don't need to worry about that. Tells you what they're playing. This group is playing D&D 5th edition in the Pathfinder set. They're looking for one more person out of 9 open slots, or there's one person and there's 9 open slots. Then it'll tell you the next game, which is this Saturday at 3:04 a.m. my time, so they're probably playing from overseas somewhere. As you can see, it's in a different language, so yeah, somewhere overseas. But when you sign up, you can set your time so that it'll always show you what time they're going to play your time. Like I said, 3:04 a.m. my time is not going to be one for me that I want to play. And you can go ahead and search through that and try to find a campaign for other people online. Alright, so we'll go ahead and start from the beginning. Go ahead and create a new campaign. It says optional, but you'll want to choose your module. Go ahead and input the name of your campaign. You can create tags for it, so it'll make it easier for people to choose. Now these optional modules are for DMs who have paid to play, and it's $4.99 a month for basic and $9.99 a month for more advanced options. And then they'll give you these modules that they actually have that you can just play off of, and you don't have to make up your own. But it's not needed. You don't need to pay to play this game at all. Optional, choose a character sheet template. You'll definitely want to do this so you can pick what kind of character sheet you're playing with. Right now, most of our group is playing with the D&D 5th edition. And I'll give you a little preview of what that looks like. So once you have that all set, you go ahead and just click I'm ready to create campaign. Now, for those of you who aren't a subscriber to it, they give you this little advertisement thing here before every game, advertising their subscriber benefits. Dynamic lighting is probably the only good benefit for a subscriber. But here you'll get just a blank piece of canvas for you to use. You can zoom out up here in the top corner right here. And that's for both DMs and players. You'll use this to zoom in and out of the map. Sometimes the map won't show you exactly where you want to go, so you can use that. Over here is your tool list. For the arrow, that's what you use to select your tokens when they're on the board. Use the hand to pan around the map so you don't have to shrink it or make it bigger. Alright, so first things first, as a DM, you'll have different layers. So you'll have the map and background layer, the objects and tokens layer, and the GM info layer. The map and background layer is basically your setting, what you want your background to look like. So you can go into the gallery here and maps and just type in, I don't know, cave. And it'll give you a short list of things that are here. Some of them are from the marketplace and they have to be purchased, and some of them don't. Some of them are just, you know, from the web. You can feel free to use. And when you do that, you go ahead and just grab it and drag it onto here. And it'll just be a map background layer. We'll just use that as a starting point for our map. And once that is set as a background layer, nobody will be able to move it or touch it or anything like that. Then you can go to objects and tokens. So if you want to set up creatures, you can go ahead and come over here and go to tokens. Let's just type in a dragon. see what it comes up with. And like I said, the more detailed things will be from the marketplace that you can get, but it's not necessary. You have things on here that are from the web that you can go ahead. So once again, it's simple stuff. Just drag and drop. Place that one. That one's not the greatest because it's got a white background layer. There we go. This one doesn't have a white background layer, so you can go ahead and put that on there. And you have your first token, which is a monster for them to battle. Now, one thing that you want to do to make sure as a DM, you don't want the areas to be revealed. So you can go ahead and hide an area. If you want to hide a specific area, you can hide a specific area. You can reveal areas too by clicking and dragging. Here we go. Turn on Fog of War. It automatically blinks out the whole map for you. If you want to reveal the areas, you just drag and drop and see how the areas are revealed now. And if you don't want to have it revealed, you just go back to hide areas, cover it up, and they won't be able to see it. Now, you can use draw shapes to help identify targets like this, or you can use it to make walls so that the players can't pass by, saying like this area here is not accessible, so that they can't move past that area. Other than that, DMing it's pretty simple. Click on the clock, have the turn order. You'll have the tokens do initiative so that it'll automatically show up in here. You can also go into the settings and change the settings of it, numerical, ascending, whatever, A to Z, and you can actually set them from here. Alright, as a DM, you can also use this tool over here, and as a player, it'll show you the distance, how far an object is. This helps with doing attacks and movement, so if you wanted to attack this dragon and you were in this area over here, then it'll tell you exactly how many feet away it is, so that if you're using a bow or anything like that, it'll tell you if you can hit it or not, or if you can move close enough to hit it. They have a simple dice roller on here. If you don't want to use macros or anything like that, you can use this and it'll have simple dice rolls. Just click on it. If you need to use a D4, click on that and it'll automatically show up rolling 1d4. And that can be used for both players and DMs. So we'll go ahead and move over to what most of you were probably here for, and that's character sheets. And we'll go ahead and start with this one. Now the DM has to give out character sheets to everybody. So you'll go ahead and give out a character sheet for the name, the player's journal. I'm the only player in here, so the player has to be in here. So go ahead and click that player for that's in that player's journal, and it only shows up in that player's journal so that nobody else can see it. Then you'll want to have editing permissions so that they can use their character sheet. So go ahead and click that in there. And once that's done, then go ahead and hit Save Changes so that they can use it. Alright, so now when you're looking in your character sheets, you'll see bio and info, which is mainly used for the DM, attributes and abilities. This is just a breakdown of all your attributes and macro things that you can use. but you'll mainly be looking at the character sheet right here. This is where you can edit and create your own character. So you can go ahead and change your character's name, and one that I normally use. Here you'll pick your character's class. When you type in your character's class. Alignment is basically where good, evil, neutral, things like that, and everything in between. Most of the time it doesn't matter. You'll have to be somewhere between neutral and good for most parties. Languages, everyone knows common. It's kind of like English. And then whatever race you are. So if you're a dwarf, you'll know common and, of course, dwarven. Dark vision, you'll have to look up for your race. That's the ability to see in dim lighting or low lit areas. Most of the time it's between 20 to 60. Being a dwarf, I'm pretty sure they have 60 feet of dark vision. Background, you don't need to worry about level and XP. You'll move up in the class category, and XP you just fill in when you get it. Alright, so now here's your basic stats. You have strength, which is used for your basically your strength checks, your dex for your dex checks, constitution for your constitution checks and health, intelligence for intelligence checks, and wisdom for wisdom checks and charisma, and so on and so forth. So everything's at a -5 right now, but everything is at 0 when it's at 10. You'll have stuff that's higher than 10 for sure, but it depends on the character you want to, or the class you want to play. Now, since I'm having right now a rogue, you want to have a high dexterity, so we'll just put his at 18 for right now. And the higher your dexterity goes, you get bonuses. As you can see, your dexterity goes up to 4. Now that's a +4 on all your saves. It's a +4 on all checks that require dexterity as a modifier, and initiative requires dexterity modifiers as well. This can be all hashed out while you're building your character sheets, whether or not you want to roll for them, or you take the standard 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8 basic stats. It all depends on your DM, what your DM is going to use. Alright, so right here is your armor class. Hopefully you guys can see that. This is determined on whether or not an enemy will hit you or not. So having a higher armor class is better. Everyone starts out as a 10 armor class and gets ability modifiers from your dex. So my dex is 4. So my armor class goes up by 4, and then whatever armor you're wearing will increase your armor class as well. This is your initiative, is what you roll for starting battle. A higher initiative means you get to do your action first. So you always want to roll higher initiative. Speed, once again, you have to check your racial backgrounds. A lot of them is 30, some of them are 25 depending on your race. It's just about how fast or slow, how many spaces you can move. Alright, this is your health. Right here, it'll tell you you can roll whatever health you want to have. You have to check your race, or not your race, your class. Depending on what class you are, you get a different dice. I know first level you get max level dice plus your constitution. So if your constitution was, let's say, 14, you get a +2. So if you were, say, a warrior, you get a D10 plus your constitution, so your health would be 12. I know rogues get a D8, so that plus my constitution will be a 10. Temporary hit points are if you get an ability or somebody casts something on you that says you get extended hit points beyond your maximum. So if you were already at 10 and they give you, 2 more hit points, you would have a temporary, it's kind of like a small barrier, but you would get 2 hit points, and whenever you lose health, you'd lose those temporary hit points first. Alright, so now whenever you play the game, you're going to have checks that you're going to have to do, which are called skill checks. This is the list of skill checks that you can do, that every player can do. So if you were being stealthy, as a rogue would be, you would need to roll for a stealth check, and it would be right here. You just scroll across, and there's a little dice icon here. If you click it, as you heard that little beep, it'll show up here, stealth check. It's not a very good stealth check. I actually crit failed on that. But it'll show you your stealth check, and then the DM can decide whether or not you were stealthy or not. And it works for every single one of these. Most of the time, you'll want to have perception as high as possible, because that's mainly the most checks you do, determining whether or not you see something or not. So that's always a good one to have. Most of this other stuff you really don't need to worry about. It's just extra added material, and this area will be filled in later. Does anybody have any questions on the first page? The character sheet that I'm using is the 5th edition shaped character sheet. It's mainly the ones that we use when we play, since we're playing the new 5th edition rule set. With these character sheet, it'll be different. Most of the time it's the skill checks that are different. I know between 1st edition and 5th edition, they've got a little bit more condensed. They used to have things like thief and steal and break bars and all kinds of fun stuff that you have to try and roll for, but now it's all condensed into a smaller thing. To all your thief checks, your lockpick checks, and stuff like that are all rolled into sleight of hand. Alright, so if there's any questions, just put them in chat. I'll come back to them. Yes, there's 2 types of 5th edition sheets. There's the shaped and the not shaped. I prefer the shaped because it's easier to find things. If you want health, you just look for the giant heart. You want your armor class, you look for a shield. It's just easier to see. The skill checks are all in a column, in one column, instead of broken up into 2 columns. So it's just easier to find things. I prefer it. It depends on what your DM prefers. And one more thing on this set, here are your saving throws and your skill checks. That's another thing I like on the shaped one. Whenever you have to make a saving throw, like if you step in mud that's 10 feet deep and you don't want to get stuck in there, you have to make either a Constitution or a Dex saving throw. So you'll just go ahead and find the one that's next to Dexterity and hit save to see if you make the saving throw, and that's usually a middle area saving throw, so you'll probably make it. Whenever you open up a door and there's a trap, you need to make a Dex saving throw. If you drink some water and it's semi-poisonous, you have to make a Constitution, saving throw or a check. So that's what this little box here is for. Alright, background. This is kind of for the player mostly, because the player's mostly going to see this. You can fill in the background of your character. We'll have a male dwarf, size is medium, age, he's a dwarf, so we'll make him 100. Height, he's a dwarf, so we'll make him 5 feet. It's a tall dwarf, and he's 150 pounds. Brown eyes, tan skin, black hair. Alright, so background features, you can type up a little background feature for him. His ideals that he has, any bonds, any friends that he's made, flaws. He may be a dwarf, but maybe he can't hold his liquor as much as the other dwarves can, so you can type in that he's not very good at drinking. Personality traits you can put in there, racial traits. You can actually really define your D&D character, and the more you define it, the better the game goes, because remember, all this is in your head, so you don't really get to see much of what your dwarf is or what your character is, how he acts and stuff like that. So you want to be able to define him as much as possible. That way, when you're playing the character, you're give it as much you can, because your character is you. So unless you play him like just, you know, I'm a dwarf and I hit with my battle axe, or you go, I'm a dwarf and I swing my mighty battle axe and try to cleave the head off this goblin. You know, try to give a little bit extra into it. Really helps the DM, and it also helps the flavor of your character for other players. Down here, your equipment proficiencies. Every class has equipment proficiencies. You just have to find out what they are. They're in the player's handbook, or you can just Google them, unless you want to buy one of these fancy books online. I know I bought mine. They're about $30 on Amazon per book. Some people don't have that kind of money to spend, but when you're a DM, you kind of want to have all the books, just so you have quick reference to everything. But everything can be found online somewhere. So that's where you just put in what you're proficient with armor. Being a rogue, you'll be proficient with light armor, so you'll be only able to use light armor such as leather, cloth, padded armor. Weapons will be martial weapons like short sword, rapier, crossbows for ranged weapons, tool proficiencies, thieves' tools, burglars' tools, adventure kits, things like that, of that nature. So we'll go ahead and go into class. These are the different classes that they have in 5th edition. Your barbarians, paladins, and fighters are all your tank type classes. Bards, rogues, druids sometimes can be your dexterity type players. Clerics, druids, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards are all mages. I mean, anybody can be really anything, whatever you want to be. You kind of want to have a easy group of people, of having one person be a tank, one person be a thief, and one person be a spellcaster usually makes things easier. And then one person being a druid or a cleric to have some sort of healing going on. This is where you input your levels. So being a rogue, you just put it up by 1. When we go back to the core stats, you'll see that your level has gone up by 1, and it'll show it there. So everything's already macroed into there for you. When you have proficiencies, you get +2 on proficiencies for everything. So say you want to be proficient in this, it'll go up by 2, because starting at level 1, your proficiency bonus is only +2. Alright, so we'll go back to class. Alright, so class features and feats. If you take any feats, you can go ahead and put them in here. Your class features. This is what it'll say. For a rogue, you'll get sneak attack, thieves can't, cunning action, and there's places here you can put it in here. You can just go ahead and type in thieves can't. And that's one of your first rogue abilities, and it's secret language that only you and other people who have this type of ability can understand. Gain from Rogue, and then when you use it, it'll pop up over here on the right side. I'm using Thieves' Cant. It's a secret language. And that's where you put all your class skills. Alright, weapons. This is where you spend a lot of time in if you want to use this page more often than the other ones. Weapons is what you use to hit with. Go ahead and fill in your weapons area here. So for my rogue, we'll go with a short sword. And knowing off the top of my head, it's a finesse weapon, which means you can use your strength or your dex modifiers. And it'll automatically put it in here. So as you can see, changing from it being strength to a finesse weapon, you'll see my modifier goes up from a 2 to a 6 to hit. Now damage dice. This is where you go ahead and input your damage dice. I know off the top of my head it's a 1d6, so that when you roll it, it'll automatically roll a 1d6. Your damage bonus is 4, so it'll add 4 to it. The damage type I know it's a piercing weapon, and whenever you get a natural 20, that means rolling a 20 on a 1d20, you'll automatically crit, which means it does the weapon damage again. So it's an additional 1d6. So now all you have to do once you have all that filled out, short sword, the attack stat, the damage dice, damage, the critical damage, you press attack, and boom, there you go. Automatically rolls it for you. It tells the GM or the DM what weapon you're using, how much you roll to hit. 18 will hit about almost anything, and how much damage you do. So with this roll, you'll hit an 18 armor class with 7 damage. And that's for your melee weapons. Your ranged weapons will be put in down here. So if you use a crossbow, how much ammo you have, which is how many arrows or bolts. Range. I know it's a finesse weapon as well because they use that too. It's an arrow, so it's going to be piercing. And crit damage, we know that it's 1d6. And your damage dice is 1d6. So that when you roll that, it'll show up just like it did before. Crossbow, your attack damage, 12. Or to hit is 12, and your damage is 9. Alright, so that is your weapons, and now it's up to you onto what weapon you want to use. You kind of want to keep it in the same realm of whatever you're using. If you're a wizard, you won't be proficient in using a great sword, so you won't be able to use a great sword. You'll probably use a staff or a dagger or some sort of light crossbow or something like that. You won't be using your weapons, you'll be using your spells. Alright, so AC, your armor class. This is where you fill in for your armor. Your AC is dependent on how hard you are to hit. So I know that rogues are proficient in light armor, so we'll go ahead and just put leather in there. You'll want to put in their base AC, and leather is 11. And then you go ahead and make sure it says light armor. Alright, so now your light armor, which is leather, which is 11, and it'll give you your 4 for your dex mod. So your AC now becomes 15, so you're just a little bit harder to hit now wearing armor. And you can put in more armor. Like I said, it's dependent upon your DM, what you get to use. If you were a fighter, you would have a shield, so you would put in shield, and then you would put in the shield gets a base of 2, so you just put that in there, And it'll automatically, as you can see, the shield is added to there, so your AC would be 17. But rogues don't use shields, so he doesn't get one. If you're wearing heavy armor, just about every single heavy armor will have a disadvantage to stealth checks, so you'll want to go ahead and click on that if you're wearing heavy armor, so that if you do a stealth check, it'll automatically give you disadvantage. Minus 10 feet to speed. That's if you're wearing armor, like super heavy armor, and your strength is low. So if your strength is less than 13, then you'll have minus 10. Or if the armor says less than 15, then you'll have minus 10. Now when we go back to here, you'll see that our short sword has wound up under here, under the melee, and crossbow has wound up under here, under the ranged. So that you can just, instead of going to weapons every time, you can go ahead, click on that, and there you go. Now if I had advantage, as you can see, in the green it'll show you that you crit. So green is good, and it'll automatically roll your crit damage, which unfortunately I crit failed at the same time, which is a 1. So that's the least amount of damage I can do. So whenever a red box shows up, that means you crit failed. Green box shows up, that means you crit succeeded. Alright, so now into the fun stuff of spellcasters. Now, cantrips. At first level, you'll get around 2 to 3 cantrips. This is where you're going to fill them in. You want to make sure that the cantrip area is highlighted. You go ahead and add cantrip, and then you'll go ahead and put it in. Now, it'll tell you what kind of what school you learned that cantrip from. So let's go ahead and say illusion, and the name is minor illusion. Casting time is 1 action, which most spells are. It's 1 action. We'll say range is 30 feet. Components you don't really need to worry about because most DMs don't care about components. Duration means how long the spell is going to last, so 1 minute. The source, it'll pick, so we'll say wizard if you're a wizard. If you're doing a single target, or if it's an AoE, we'll say that it's a single target, so go 1 target. Alright, now down here it'll show you the description of what it is, so you can type in what the description of your spell does, or you can find it online and copy and paste it in there. So let's just say cast a small image of 1 cubic foot. And you'll want to make sure that the checkbox is checked under description so that when you use it, it'll actually show up. The same with your info box. Now, if you're rolling something like let's say everybody's favorite magic missile. Magic missile has damage, so you'll want to make sure you go over here, click on damage, and fill in your damage items. So we know that damage is three different dice. There we go. Stat bonus we won't bother with. And now you have to fill in for saving effects. Now, saving effects is for the enemy, whether or not they have a chance to save against your spell. So you want to make sure to go in here and click in the class you are, which is Wizard. You'll set your Wizard DC save. which means it's 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your wisdom modifier. And if you just go ahead and click Wizard DC, it'll automatically input that for you. Now, most of the time it's either one or the other. The save DC effect will be either half damage or no damage. So we'll go ahead and say half damage. And now that you got everything all filled out, you notice it's up to 3 targets where you're going to cast it on one. So you want to make sure you show the damage in the checkbox and the saving throw so that the DM can see what saving throw it needs. So now you want to cast your magic missile. Go over here and hit cast. And there you go. Your magic missile will show up. It'll tell you what class is doing it, casting time, all the info box. The saving DC throw is 10, so they have to save on their wisdom for 10. And how much damage you did, which is 4, which is crit low. Very, very. I rolled 3 ones. That is shocking. That is very, very shocking. And half damage. Remember, if it's an odd number, the DM always rolls down, goes down. And the same thing, once you pick all your cantrips, you'll move over to your level 1 spells, and you fill it in just the same way. You go to add, type in the name, type in the school, casting time, range, the duration, where it's coming from, the wizard, target. Fill in the description. If it needs to hit, you need to make an attack stat so that it'll show up when it needs to hit. The damage, make sure to fill in the damage so that you don't have to roll it by yourself. And that's level all the way 1 through 9. And you can add as many as you have. Now for first level, you'll probably get 3 spells, but only 2 spell slots. What that means is your daily spell slots are 2, which means you can cast a level 1 spell 2 times. Even though you know 3, you can only cast 2 spells. As far as cantrips go, cantrips are your bread and butter. Cantrips are going to be the ones that you can cast as many times as you want per day. They're a little bit weaker. That's why you can cast as many as you want, but you can cast as many as you want. You won't run out of spells. Level 1, like I said, you need to have the spell slots open. There'll be stronger spells, but you can only use them so many times per day. Your spell slots will reset after a long rest, and that just happens if you complete a dungeon or complete a portion of the dungeon and your team says, we need to do a long rest to heal and regain your spells. Is there any questions on spells? If there is, let me know. Alright, so we'll move on towards inventory. Alright, inventory is where all the fun of gathering loot and getting money. So you have your copper pieces, your silver pieces, your electrum pieces, your gold pieces, and your platinum pieces. It's already all in the order of how much they're worth, copper being the less and platinum being the most. Inventory here is where you can fill out that you have a thieves kit, and let's say you have an adventurers pack, and let's say you have a shovel. I don't know why you have a shovel, but we'll say you have one. Up here will tell you your carrying max. You can carry up to 150 pounds. You can drag up to 300 pounds, or push up to lift up to 300 pounds. You're encumbered by 50 pounds, and your heavily encumbered by 100 pounds. And that just depends on your strength. If you have a high strength, it'll be higher. So it all depends on what kind of class you're playing. So we'll go ahead and go back to the core stats. We'll fill this in a little bit better. Let's say 14, 15. Since we have some spells, say 17. Charisma, we'll say 16. Alright, so now that I inputted all those things, as you can see down here, it automatically adjusted the modifiers for me. So that when you do ability checks, it'll add those modifiers automatically to your abilities. Now, over here in the box, you see two numbers. Right, some people get confused about these numbers on which ones to use and which ones not to use. In 5th edition, they now roll 2 d20s when making attack rolls, saving throws, and ability checks. And this purpose is for advantage and disadvantage. Now, if you have advantage on something, you would take the higher of the two rolls. In this case, it would be a 10. If you have a disadvantage in something, you would take the lower of the two rolls, in this case, the 5. On all other checks, if you don't have advantage, if you don't have disadvantage, you go with the first number. So that's why there's two numbers now instead of one. So this is filling out your character sheet. Like I said, you can find most of this stuff that you can find in the book somewhere online. I know the D&D 5th edition wiki page has most of the stuff. Doesn't have all of it, but it has most of the stuff that you can find on there. Most of the basic stuff you can find on there. Alright, so now you have your character page all done. It shows your name right here. You're all ready to go. You're all ready to play. Over here in the little cog area here is your settings. You can be fancy and change your display name. So instead of saying Jason C, you can change it to your character name. So that now down here in the corner where your picture is shown, you can go ahead and hit save name and it'll automatically change so that now your character will show there. Most games are played with voice, some with voice and video. You'll come here, you want to broadcast to others. If you have a microphone, which you should when you're playing, it makes things so much easier when playing this game instead of having everybody else type out everything. If you don't want to show your face, just hit voice only and it'll only show your the voice. If you want to show nothing, click on nothing and everything's disabled. Nobody can hear you, nobody can see you. Same thing here. I want to receive from others. If you want to mute everybody at once, you can do that. If you don't want to see people for some odd reason, you can hit voice only and it'll only show you their pictures. Now these are kind of big, they kind of take up the map, so you can kind of make them a little bit smaller so you don't have to, it doesn't get in the way, or you can just put it as names only and you don't see anything, you just see their nameplates, or you can make them incredibly large, which is just annoying. I prefer it on small so I can at least see when the mics are on who's talking, and it'll show up as a little green flash bubble in the top right hand corner. Also, there are macros in the game. I wouldn't recommend using it. Just use your D&D sheet. But if you want to add a macro, you can. This is the way you do it. You go ahead and go to Add Macro. Let's say I want to make it's just my basic short sword attack. And you can just type in roll 1d20. plus whatever your modifier is, and test macro. And as you can see, it'll pop up down here. I rolled a 1d20 plus 4, I got a 17 plus 21. And it'll show up that way. If you want to add some flavor to your rolls, you can go me, and then say let's see, take a diving thrust and swings and stabs at the goblin. And then the best way to do it is to do a double bracket and then 1d20 plus your modifier, and then the double close bracket. So what does that look like? We'll go ahead and test the macro, and it'll show up here as Irvinsar takes a diving thrust and stabs at the goblin, and it'll show you a roll right here. Now you have to have the double brackets around there if you want to show up like this. If you don't have the double brackets, it will just show up with the dice roll. It'll say your little blurb, and then show the dice roll, which isn't as fancy. And then you'll just go ahead and hit save. And then it'll show your macro right here. And if you go ahead and check this right here, in bar, it'll show up down here as a little quick slot for you to use. So now that every time you click it, it'll show that little macro you made. But it could get annoying if you have flavor text in there every time. It'll just continue to say the same flavor text over and over again. So you can always change up your macro. But like I said, I wouldn't start out using the macros. Just open up your character sheet as you see here. If you double click it, it'll open it up, double click it, and it'll close it. It'll minimize it instead of closing it and having to scroll over to your character sheet and opening it up each and every time. And just click on that. That way you can get the nice, pretty looking green banner and your rolls and damage. And that's pretty much it as far as character sheet creation goes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Not getting many questions in chat, so I feel like I'm describing everything as best as I can. We'll switch back over to the DM portion for just a quick minute, and then we'll wrap things up. So as a DM, you want to make sure that the permissions are set for each character. When you create tokens for players, so let's see, you want to have a dwarf token for the dwarf player that is just now created their character. So let's go ahead and pick, I don't know why they have dark dwarves, but let's just grab one. Let's field the area so we can see it better. Alright, so there's your dwarf token. Want to make sure it's on the objects and tokens layer. so that the characters can use them. You want to make sure that you add all the tokens to the list and give permissions to each token. That way tokens that are on the list can be accessed. Alright, let's move this. So go ahead and double click on that and it'll show you the represented characters. You want to go ahead and click on that so it represents that character. Now bar 1, you can put here, you can input their HP bars. So he was a 10. So if they lose HP, just take it out of this area here and label that as HP. You can also label their armor class. The armor class is automatically put in there. It's 15, as you can already see. Controlled by, determined by character settings. So controlled by, it should already be controlled by the player you put up here. You can hit show nameplate so that each person can see their name. For your GMs, you can put little notes down here for each character. The advanced tab, you want to make sure everything has edit on there so that the player can edit them. Go ahead and hit save changes. So now as a DM, when you click on these, you can see he's got 10 health, his armor class is 15. Up here you see a little green bar, that's his health bar. Players will see the exact same thing. You can use the, go ahead and click on it and use them to move, do the spaces. Players, when you double click on him, you can change your health stats and anything like that. So when he's at full health now, when you change his health, there you go. You can see his health goes down. It's now half health. You see it by the bar just like any other HP bar. So you have to make sure that they have permissions to edit and that they own the token. That way they can move them. It'll make things a whole lot easier instead of having you to drag and drop their tokens, ask them where they want to go at each and every other time. Over here you have Jukebox, where you can add music. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just click add. You can use their little thing here to find in. Just type something in there, it'll automatically search for background music. If you want to use music like that, you can go ahead and add it. What I normally do, I just use YouTube on another tab, as you can see up here. Just use it on another tab, play it, they'll pick it up through your microphone. It's just easier to deal with than having, you know, 4 or 5 people playing the music, playing it through their microphones, and having it loop over and over and over again through each and every person's microphone. Now, down here you can, when you type in here, it's just basic chat. You type in, it'll show up. Hello, it'll show up as your character, and everyone who's playing can see it. Now, if you want to talk secretly, you can type whisper and then type the person's name, and it'll come up down here. You can click it so it'll show up. And you can say, let's steal money from Greg, who is apparently your paladin. So you can whisper that to another player and only he will see it, or he or she will see it, and then they can reply to you in a whisper. That way you can talk back and forth without informing the other party members. As a DM, I highly suggest you use this as a tool. When people are walking around the map, not everyone is going to see the same things. When people roll perception checks, not everyone is going to hear the same things. Leave it up to your players to determine whether or not they tell other people. To do that, just whisper, type in their name, it'll tell you. If you only want to tell something to the GM, just type GM and say, I want to backstab the paladin. And only the GM will see it. And he'll say, okay, well, hopefully he won't say it out loud, but he'll tell you in chat to make an attack roll, and you can attack the paladin. As a DM, you really want to use this. I feel it's very underrated because most DMs who DM don't use this enough. They just tell everybody at the same time what they all see. Kind of lessens the experience. No point in rolling when you have 5 people rolling perception check and one person hears something while everybody else doesn't hear it, but the DM tells them all anyways. So I would highly suggest for DMs to use this. It makes the game a whole lot better, especially when only one player knows something. You get to feel if that person is willing to share that information with other people. Say the DM tells you that you found a pitfall trap in the middle of the room and only you know about it. It's kind of funny to find out whether or not he tells the other people, or he tells them, yeah, the middle of the room is safe, go ahead and walk on it, and then he laughs to himself to see what happens. So you want to try and use that to the best of your ability. As a GM, some people have dice, some people don't. GMs, don't let the people see your rolls. I can't say that enough. The whole part of DMing is to modify all the rolls that you have. You don't want to kill your party right away. And sometimes the dice land that way. Sometimes you get rolls that crit and will kill somebody, and you don't want that to happen, so don't show them your rolls. If you have to roll on here, the simple thing is GM roll 1d20, and it'll show up like that, and it won't show everybody else. It'll only show you, so you can only see it. So please don't show the rolls, whether or not they hit. Sometimes it's okay to show damage to kind of strike fear into the player's eyes, to know that they're rolling really high hit dice to do damage. Saving throws are okay, because most of the time that's either half damage or no damage. But whether or not they hit or crit or fail or anything like that, you want to kind of keep that to yourself. That way you can adjust the battle the way you see fit. That way nobody gets killed outright, and when people get killed outright, they have to make a whole other character, and it's not always fun building a character and then having him killed right away. So try and use that as much as possible. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about it, or you're confused on anything, go ahead and say something now, so I can go back over it. Because that's pretty much the basics of Roll20. If you go ahead and subscribe to their efforts and whatnot and support them at $4.99 a month, then you get some extra perks. As a player, I wouldn't recommend it because the perks aren't that much. As a player, as a DM, I would highly recommend it because the perks for DMing are really, really great. And it makes playing the game a little bit better because when you have the perks and you're DMing, it affects all the players that are in your campaign. So when you have the dim lighting and movement for players, depending on much they can see. It makes a whole difference to where whether or not players can see each other, then they end up getting lost and roaming around trying to find one another instead of revealing everything to everybody at once. So it makes for a very more realistic type of gameplay. So that the caverns can seem more treacherous. People wander off by themselves and end up running away from battles they know they shouldn't be in. Now, remember that D&D is not all just create a character and hack and slash. It's a lot of imagination and mental stimulation. You want to be able to go into a room and know that you might not come out of this room. You may have to solve a riddle to get out of the room. There may be an endless horde of zombies that you just can't fight your way out of. You have to figure out another way. You may have to run. You may have to, like I said, solve a puzzle to shut off the wave of endless zombies, or open the door that immediately slammed behind you. So DMs, make sure it's not all hack and slash. Force them to use their brain a bit. Dungeons with riddles help the game along, because sometimes, you know, having 5 or 6 space dungeon can last up to 3 or 4 hours, as long as you play your cards right. You give them riddles to solve. Don't make every door easy to open. Make sure they're locked. Have traps. Have traps not only in the doors but in the floor, in the wall, and all the stuff you can mark on your GM layer that they won't see, that they won't know about. And that's all stuff that you can put. And players, don't just say that you swing with your sword or whatever. Try and do something fantastical that you know you wouldn't be able to do normally. If you're a rogue, try and you're fighting a large orc or a mountain gnome or something, something that's larger than you. Try and see if you can get away with sliding underneath his legs and hacking at his crotch. That'll bring any monster down. You may have to make an extra few checks, but if you get it done, then you might be able to take him down a whole lot easier. So you want to make things more fantastical, make them absurd, make things funny. I know in the last campaign that I was with, it was with the Mama Geeks, with Rick and Crystal and Augustine and the other guy. I can't remember his name now. He's gonna hate me for not remembering his name. But make things interesting. Don't just say that you walk up and check a treasure chest. I walked up and I jumped inside the treasure chest. I started licking the mirrors. I try to do things that you wouldn't normally do just to see what would happen. Try and throw the DM off. It's your job to try and make the DM come up with something on the fly. Crystal was one DMing, and I did every bit I could to try and throw her off her game. You can always get something different when you try to throw the DM off their game. Sometimes licking the walls aren't good, but nothing bad happened, but you never know. If you could have got poisoned, you could have got extra strength. You never know. So try and do something out of the ordinary, but try and keep it to your character. Like I said, I was a rogue gnome. I was feisty and I got into all kinds of hijinks. So licking the walls seemed proper for me. If you're a dwarf and you guys are in a tavern, go get drunk and try to start a bar fight. If you're an elf, tell the DM you're gonna go gardening. Try and throw them off their game, because the more you try to throw them off their game, the better the game is going to be. So that's my input on that. And make sure to, if you have any issues with showing up to a game, try and inform the DM and anybody else playing as early as possible, because the DMs put a lot of work into building a adventure for you, and it's tough when people don't show up. So try and show up as best as your ability. If you can't, just inform the DM to say, hey, I'm not going to be there. And then if you're having a long campaign with a crucial party member, say your cleric or whatever, is missing for that day, talk to the DM, ask the DM if somebody wants to play his character, and if not, the other players don't feel comfortable with that, then the DM can build a side mission for the people that do show up. That way, you know, they still get to play, but they're not doing the main campaign without the important person. Alright, so if anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask. I know Augustine is having a session tomorrow at 8 or 9, I believe, Eastern Standard Time, which is 5 or 6 my time, PST time. Hopefully you guys can show up to that. She's a great player. I assume she's a great DM because she's already DM'd one before, I believe. But she's a great player. She was a lot of fun to play with yesterday. So try and show up to that. And if you can't, I will be DMing a session sometime midweek next week if we get enough people. It'll be probably around 5 or 6 p.m. my time, which is PST time. And it'll be a one-off for players who want to just jump in and get more experience. I believe Rick and Crystal want to get a solid couple of groups, hopefully 2 groups. That way, one's for East Coast and one's for West Coast. That way we're not keeping people up later than they need to be. So if you have interest, make sure to let them know, let me know if you have interest. If I just got a question about finding a group, go ahead and back out of here since we don't need that now. The best way is to go once you get a account with Roll20, a free account that they have, just log in and come here looking for group. You go ahead and click on that, and then find out what kind of edition you want to play. It goes all the way back to the very first one, ADD 1 and second ADD. To almost every type of edition you can think of, World of Darkness, Warhammer, Pathfinder. I believe I just saw, yep, Lord of the Rings, 5th edition, 4th edition, 3.5, Star Wars, but since 5th edition's in right now, that's what most people are playing, so you can just go ahead and click 5th edition. Like I said earlier, starting the soonest so that you're not waiting the longest to play. And then go ahead and click Find Games. And it'll show you the earliest available game is in 1 hour from now. So they're playing 5th edition in 1 hour. They have 3 slots open. I would highly suggest to stay away from campaigns that have more than 5 or 6 players that are in there. Like these ones, 41 current players, 59 open slots. Don't bother with those. Those are ones that are going to have too many people, and if more people show up, then you're not going to end up playing. I joined one that had 29 players in there, and they only allowed 6 people per week to play. So you want to kind of stay away from those. 3 current players, 1 open slot, that's good. That means there's going to be, one DM and 3 players. That's good, and that starts in 3 hours from now. You can try and get into there. They give you a little short blurb about it. It'll tell you on there. And if you're a new player, try and look for these blue banners here that says welcomes new players, because sometimes people don't put them in there, and they actually don't welcome new players. They only want experienced players, people who know what they're doing, and will just end up kicking you out of their campaign and wasting your time. Not wasting theirs, but wasting your time, because you're the one looking to play, and they're the one that needs players. So, like here, role-playing game, 5th edition has no welcome new players, so you'll try and want to stay out of there. Plus, it's open to 100 players. That's ridiculous. There's no point in having 100 players. You're not going to DM 100 people. You're not going to DM. DMing more than 6 people is not recommended. If you're going to DM, you want to kind of keep it 6 and under. That way, you can have control over everything. You can have the battles make sense. If you have like 10 people playing and there's 10 people battling, then you're going to have to increase the health of the enemies. You're going to have to increase the hit damage of the enemies, which ends up being that 1 hit could kill a person. So you want to try and stay away from having too many people. While DMing, you want to look, you can look in the monster manual if you have the book, and it'll give you recommended hit points and attacks and stuff like that. You want to kind of cater it to the level of your players. If you're putting out a dragon, you're not going to want to use the basic stats of a dragon, because it'll have like 150 health and it'll be hitting for 6d12, and that'll kill anybody in your party's not going to survive. So you're going to want to kind of lower that. Maybe only give him 25 health, and he does maybe 1 or 2d6 damage for level 1s. You want to kind of cater it to the level of your party. When you're DMing as well, don't overcomplicate things. Don't make it too difficult to where the players can't progress through the dungeon, because if players aren't progressing, they're not talking, then everyone's just standing still staring at each other, not saying anything on a webcam. And that's not fun. You might as well be back in high school, at the popular party is the unpopular kid sitting in the corner. It's not going to be very fun. I do suggest that some of you new players show up to one of our D&D sessions. If you can't make it, let us know. I have a lot of time on my hands. I will try and cater to as many people as I can. If you need a one-on-one D&D session, if you need a one-on-one player session, a DM session, just send me a message, let me know. I will try to help as many people as I can. I really want to get more and more people into this, get away from the stereotypical only guys play, only nerdy guys play, because that's not true in this day and age anymore. Nerds and geeks and all kinds of stuff like that have become the new popular, and as you guys may have noticed, esports are starting to take over. They've already picked it up on ESPN. There are now more viewers for esports than there were for basketball or golf. So, I mean, basketball and golf's not any of my favorite sports. I don't care about, but it's come a long way since what it used to be. I'll be doing runs here on Roll20. On my Facebook is the best place to get a hold of me. Just look me up on my Facebook. I'm in the groups, on the Daddy Geeks groups. I'm in the Mommy Geeks D&D groups. I pretty much say it out loud that if anybody needs help, or anybody needs assistance, or anybody wants to play, all you have to do is message me, and then they'll get a reply back as soon as I get it. I'm pretty much on Facebook 24/7. So I'll get the message and I'll let you know if you guys want to do. If you and your husband or your wife want to do just a campaign, just the two of you, um, let me know. I'll run a campaign with just the two of you. I can easily make that happen. That way you can get together and have some fun time, just you and uh, your significant other. If you and your family want to do it, you and your kids want to do it, please do make sure that your kids are old enough. Um, I would say 8 maybe would be my limit. Any younger, it might get a little too radical. What do you mean your group can't run live games? Are you talking about setting up a Roll20 and then having people come on and post what they're going to do for the day or whatever? Is that what you're talking about? Gardis? The best way to do it is to do it with everybody in one place. Um, uh, Typing it out is really stretching it as far as getting into the game. If you force to type it out, if you don't have a mic, um, that's not a bad thing. I can work with people typing out what they're going to do. But mics are cheap. You don't need a great mic. If you have a laptop, your laptop already has a mic. So what do you mean by can't run live games? Give me an example of what you would normally do. Oh, are you saying like on are you just doing a normal play by post and then doing a Roll20 session every other week or so? So are you talking about posting to Facebook or posting to Roll20? Sorry, I was just trying to answer the guy's question, this person's question. Um, like I said, there's nothing wrong with posting what you're going to do. Um, the only issue if you were to not be able to be there and post. Oh, forums. Oh, okay, gotcha. Forums are kind of fine. There's some forums out there that do this kind of thing. It's kind of hard because sometimes people don't get back to their posts as quickly as other people are doing things. Say like if you're in a group and you're in a battle, then you have to wait according to initiative to other players, and sometimes players don't come back quickly enough while other people are waiting to play. What I would suggest if you were going to do a forum type deal or a post type deal and as well as doing a Roll20 type deal, what I would suggest would be during the posting session, I would have things like doing their off time things, like what do they do in between the battles, in between sessions. Are they trying to make extra money by selling crafts? Are they trying to make equipment? Are they taking on side jobs? Are they farming? Things like that. That's what I would suggest to do. That way, the DM can cater to every person individually instead of waiting on everybody else to figure out what they're doing. I wouldn't suggest doing a dungeon in a forum environment. It just makes things harder. Yeah, just use it to get ready, get everything going. You know, to kind of tell your backstory if you want to do it that way. That's fine. That's easily doable as long as you're doing the dungeons on Roll20. It makes things a whole lot easier if you're doing the things on Roll20 in person or live or whatever, so that everyone is there. They can have their fill of battle and whatnot. Yeah, because you don't want to do the battles over forums. If you do the battles over forums, you're waiting. It's going to take it'll take hours to get through one battle, waiting on other people to input what they're going to do, and then if you have planned something to do, then somebody else does something and it messes up your plans and you don't know, then you have to wait and wait and wait to find out what's going to happen. In dungeon, like I said, in dungeon, no forums. Out of dungeon, that's completely fine. That'll give you plenty of time to do whatever you're going to do. If you're going to go dig up graves and try to rob graves, you know, you don't really need the other players to do that. It's completely fine. Other than that, there's nothing wrong with doing out of dungeon things on the forums. If I were you, I would try to get into a group that does it weekly. That way you can get as much experience as quickly as possible. Or just join a bunch of one-offs. And then just take your character from place to place to place to place. That's what I did with some of the people here. I just took my same gnome rogue to 4 or 5 different one-offs, and you know, he had his adventures, got his experience and whatnot, and did whatever he wanted to do. And don't forget that the D&D it's a big role playing thing. So that when you're playing, you want to role play as your character. You want to act like your character, think like your character, and you want to say to yourself, if you're going to do something, would your character do this? Not would you do this, but would your character do this? So the better you build your backstory, you know, your whole history of your character. And you can, a lot of DMs will actually give you bonuses to your character if you come up with a good enough backstory. If you know, say that your mother and your father were great warriors, and your father was one of the best generals, and your mother was a shield maiden, and you have your father's sword and your mother's shield, I wouldn't see any reason why DM wouldn't give you like a +1 to hit on your attack rolls and +1 to saving throws on for your shield, or +1 AC for your shield, just because you come up with a good enough, you know, backstory. I mean, that's what I do. If a player can make me believe in it, I will let them use whatever they want to use. I know in a previous game that I was trying to set up, one person wanted to have a short sword that transformed into a spear and be able to use it that way, but he had to spend a day reconfiguring the triggering mechanism to do that, and that was completely fine because he made sense of it. If you can make sense of it, then I don't see why you couldn't use it. Normally when I do one-offs, I make the whole thing up myself. I'm a writer, so I do this a lot. I don't know what that says.
I don't say it now.
Did you text it to me?
No, I didn't.
Well, then text it to me.
Sorry.
I make a lot of dungeons up myself. It's not that hard to make up a lot of dungeons if you have a creative mind and you can imagine things in your head and see them before that happens. If you don't, then you just go on Google and find plenty of things. There's lots of modules out there that you can get ideas from. You don't necessarily have to have the module to run the dungeon or to do a one-off dungeon. You just have to have the idea. Once the idea is planted in your head, you can just run with it. One of my favorite things to do is to run the what's it called? One of the dungeons where they had a guy had stuff come to life, where it wasn't they weren't real in the first place. Like it was God, I can't remember it. Hopefully one of you guys in chat will remember, but it was like one of those benches that you have outside. What is the benches called? The outside people sit under. No, I mean, like it's out by the pool and it's got a big thing over the top.
Gazebo?
Yeah, gazebo. There it is. It was the gazebo one. It was like back in 1978, I think it was. The evil gazebo, where one of his players thought it'd be funny to shoot a magical arrow at a gazebo just for fun, and the DM didn't like what he was doing and turned the gazebo into a monster and had the monster fight the party, and he ended up like eating the ranger or whatever.
The guy who shot it.
And it's just things like that. The best part about being a DM is figuring out things to do to make up for player stupidity. And what I mean by that is if they say they're going to jump on an ogre's back and they want to stab him in the neck or whatever, and he crit fails, tell him that he jumps in the ogre's trousers and is suffocating and has to make a constitution check or whatever. If they're, like I said, if they're licking the walls, have them make a constitution check to see if they get poisoned. You want to try and make things up as you go along with how characters are reacting to the environment around them. If they fail, if they have a crit fail, make them pay for it. Is what I'm saying. I can't tell you how many times that I've crit failed while trying to do something stupid while walking across a bridge and I fell off the bridge. A couple of campaigns ago, I wanted the warrior to throw me across the room, and he crit succeeded on his strength check to throw me, and I crit failed on my dex check, and he threw me over a gorge, and I slammed into a tree and I fell in the gorge. You know, anything is possible in D&D. That's the beauty of the game, is that you can make up whatever you want to happen, and it'll happen. So hopefully that answers your question. Just you know, go online, look up modules, get an example from them, and just build from there. I do that sometimes when I run out of ideas. So, does anybody else have any more questions? And if you missed a portion of this, I will put it up on my YouTube channel, and I'll link that in on the not the forums, the Facebook, so that you can watch the entirety of the stream. And if you need a refresher, you can go back and look over the things that we went over. Hopefully I answered I answered all your questions, because I don't see very many coming in over chat. But like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I will be there tomorrow at Augustine's game to help out any players that need help with their character sheets, if they're still a little confused, or if they couldn't make it to the stream and couldn't watch it on YouTube. So I'll help you guys out there. If you need individual help, like I said, just let me know and get a hold of me, and I will help you out. If nobody else has any questions, I think that'll be it for the stream. I'll be on for just another minute or two to let chat catch up. What did you say thank you for?
Oh, you could do that. Thank you. So I can get a bit more for the 16th. Or late Wednesday. Look at it.
I will in a second.
What do you think, though? It's, that's the concept there. It's the both wheels in the fire truck. Think she'll like it?
Hmm. Alright guys, I'll see you later. Hopefully see some of you guys tomorrow. And I'll answer any questions then. Alright.